little incubator. She's doing fine. She did great for her exam. She was like, absolutely not. I do not want to be here. But her blood pressure, just to kind of get it out there, 174, which is good.
Well, what was it last time?
Last time it was 205. So when she originally came in, we had 260. And so above 200 in birds, I'm like, we're too hypertensive. We need to start medication.
So 216 the first time I ever brought her in?
Mm-hmm.
And then the last time she was in?
And then last time she was 205.
Okay, and now she's 174.
Now she's 174. So we have finally hit under that 200 threshold for her blood pressure, which is great.
You think it made it better that you guys did it back there?
I do. I think she is like, I'm in a new environment, and my sedation's going to hit a little bit harder. I'm going to not see you, which is a bit of a, not a stressor, but like a, why aren't you? So I do think it helped.
Letting them do all that.
Yes, I do think it helped a lot. The other benefit of this 174 number is that, yes, it is just a number. It's a snapshot in time, but it's also under 180, which is about where our normal blood pressure in birds should be. So
they should be below 180, but above what?
But about 120, 140. The lowest blood pressure we see in birds is about 150 or so. So we're right in that kind of dream range right here. I'm quite happy with that. So as far as the hypertension or the increased blood pressure goes, we have it under control. So whether that's the amlodipine, the antihypertensive medication, versus the meloxicam, versus the excellent diet change that you made, it's a bit hard to kind of parse that out. Ultimately, we would like to have Lewis on as few medications as possible. So we have a couple options moving forward for her medications for this specific problem. My first thought is that we take her off the amlodipine. So we stop the antihypertensive medication and we keep her on the meloxicam and see how she does. The benefit of doing this is, of course, we reduce the medication and then we figure out what's actually helping. While her CT a couple months ago, her diagnostic imaging was completely unremarkable, I do think she has some arthritis in kind of her joints. She's definitely an older gray, and I think that she is uncomfortable, not painful, but that's what the meloxicam, that anti-inflammatory medication, is for. Is it possible the meloxicam is also helping with her blood pressure? Absolutely. So my ideal goal for her with this problem would be to take her off the amlodipine, keep her on the meloxicam, and then recheck her blood pressure in 3 months or earlier if any clinical signs arise. So the clinical signs would be lethargy, decreased eating, falling off the perch, clenching her legs, not moving around as much as she normally does, things like that you've always been kind of looking out for.
So you think that if I take her off the medicine, you're not concerned about it going back up?
It is a possibility that her blood pressure could increase if
Are we
take her
stopping
off.
cold turkey, or are we?
What we would
down?
do is we would kind of decrease to half of the dose for about 2 weeks, see how she does on
That's what I
that.
want to make sure.
And then the 2 weeks after, we would take her off completely. So it's a taper.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if she starts having like a little bit of clinical signs during that taper period, we're like, nope, we're putting her back on the full dose. She's doing great. That's why break a good thing. But ultimately, with kind of giving her medications, if we want to add in another medication for her feather destructive behavior, it would be the best thing, I think, for her long-term health to get her off the medications and figure out what's actually helping here. Because when they're having the clinical signs, when they're falling off the perch, when they're weak on your shoulder, we're like, we're not going to mess around and just put them on one medication at a time. We're going to give them everything we have because we want to fix them clinically.
Right.
Now we have resolution, and it's time to say, well, what actually fixed Lewis? Was it the hypertension medication? Was it the meloxicam? And that's where we kind of play a little bit with the medications to figure out what's best and
Right.
how we can get the best bang for our buck.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of the plan for the hypertension and everything like that. Any questions there, concerns?
Nope, I understand now.
Excellent. The next thing I kind of want to talk to you about is the arrhythmia. So last time when Lewis was here about 3 months ago, when we listened to her heart, it'll go doot, 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 doot. So it'll almost do what we call kind of dropping a beat. We call that an arrhythmia. So basically it's an...
And she didn't do that before, just this last time?
No, just the last time.
And they thought maybe it could have been because I was here?
Yes, yeah.
Did she have it again today?
That's what the thing is. She does have it today, pre and during sedation. So is it possible this is still secondary to stress? She obviously does not love it here, nor would I if I was a bird. This is a very stressful environment. I'm not going to come to your house and listen to her with a stethoscope because even that would be stressful because I'm an unknown person. Could an arrhythmia also be indicative of underlying heart disease? So remodeling of the chambers, the heart chambers, indicative of underlying cardiac disease. Yes, that's also a possibility. We did the CT scan, so the advanced imaging, back in March, and we didn't notice any abnormalities with her heart. We had suspected she had that atherosclerosis, or the kind of calcification of her great vessels, with no evidence on CT. So we have a couple options moving forward. We know that this is a consistent problem. We know that she's not having any clinical signs at home. She has no exercise intolerance. She has no lethargy. She has no appetite or behavioral changes. She has no vocalization changes. She's in good body condition. Everything's going really well at home. So the question is, do we keep doing what we're doing, focusing on the blood pressure, her meloxicam, keeping her at home, or do we pursue further diagnostics today? So the diagnostic we would talk about would be a cardiology consult. So this would be with our board certified cardiologists. It would happen later this afternoon at around the 2 to 3 p.m. time period. They would do two kind of diagnostic tests depending on what they would see. They would do an electrocardiogram. So basically it measures the rate and the rhythm of the heart. So it's like, you know, the normal ECG. And they would look at each kind of component and say, is there something missing here? Is this a normal kind of physiologic normal arrhythmia, or is there indicative of underlying disease? Are there medications that we could give to kind of stop this disease from progressing or things like that? And then the other test they would do would be the echocardiogram, so the imaging of the heart with the ultrasound, trying to look at the chambers. This is a bit different in birds than other species because Lewis is all keel over her heart, so it's a bit difficult in birds to get the diagnostic imaging views that you need. There's never a guarantee that we're going to be able to see what we want to see in birds. Doing the imaging, doing the cardiology consult would give us the most information about her condition. It's a possibility that we do all of this testing and then they say, everything looks normal, no reason for the arrhythmia, just keep doing what you're doing. Or it's possible we find something that says, hey, this is a bit concerning for some underlying heart disease. Maybe we consider adding in these medications to prevent any sort of secondary complications at home. It's just a way to get the most information.
So, does she have to be sedated for those things?
We do usually recommend sedation for these. We gave her the sedation earlier today, obviously, and she's like, ha 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 ha. She laughed through the sedation, so we wouldn't really re-sedate her for the process. We would try to do it awake.
You would try to do it awake because you've already sedated her.
Exactly.
That was my concern.
Yeah.
But it's, so we have to wait 3 hours?
Yeah, it's unfortunately at the whim of our cardiology service and their schedule. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Or is it better to come a different time?
Yeah, the other option we have is that we need to recheck her blood pressure in about 2 to 3 months. Do we set her up for a recheck in 2 months and set her up with a cardiology consult at that exact same time? So we do everything at the same time. To be honest with you, with her last arrhythmia, the fact that she hadn't had it before, I assumed or thought it was going to be a transient stress arrhythmia. And obviously it is consistent, and we have the capability to do the ECG and the echocardiogram today, but is it better to kind of say, how will she do in about 2 months and just do it all at the same time and plan more efficiently for it?
Well, yeah, I don't want to get her out of this or leave her back there for that long. And then what happens if you can't get her down and then you have to sedate her? Yeah. Then she's being sedated twice in one day.
These are all very real possibilities. I don't want to lie or get around that or say, oh, it'll be fine, because it is possible that we would have to resedate her, or we wait all that time.
Where if you did it all at once, you would have her sedated and you can do it all together, right?
Yeah.
Don't you think that would be a smarter plan?
I do think it would be a smarter plan. I think my job on this side is just to give you all the options.
Yes.
To be like, I want all that information. I don't mind if we
resedate
her. I don't mind waiting.
To do this extra stuff?
That is the excellent question, because that would be my biggest concern. I'm going to try it. It would be $600 to do the cardiology consult.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that includes both tests?
Yes.
Yeah. So then it would be about $700-800 altogether?
Yes.
Her normal test?
Yes, and then the cardiology, echocardiogram and ECG.
Okay, and then that's just with one sedation?
Yes.
So otherwise today, if you had to do a second sedation, it could be more?
It could be, yes.
Right. Okay. Why don't we look at doing that on the next trip? That way it's all together. I don't think it's too much time. Oh, that's off.
Yes,
it's too much time between these two events, and
we'll make sure that we get you on the schedule in a week that you're here for exam, sedated blood pressure, and immediate, if there is a murmur. If there's not a murmur, we'll have a very, very quick, concise conversation, cardiology consult with an ECG and an echocardiogram.
So that's called a murmur, or what you call this?
An arrhythmia.
An arrhythmia.
Yes. So an arrhythmia is like a dropped beat. So it's basically like...
I had dogs that had that.
Oh, beautiful. A murmur is an abnormal heart sound. So the beat is there, the heart sound just sounds abnormal.
And then what would you have, after you, if you should find out something's wrong?
Yeah.
What's the purpose of doing all of this tests? What can you guys do to make her life better if I spend that kind of money?
So the ideal outcome of the cardiology consult is, one, we don't find a problem and there's nothing we need to treat. Two, we find what is causing this dropped beat, whether it's a functional or a structural abnormality of the physical heart.
What can be the options of things that could be wrong?
So if the heart is enlarged, that could cause this. So then we would use a medication that would try to make the heart contract stronger. If the heart has kind of atrophy or it's shrunk down, that's also a possibility in our older
Is that something they could have found with the x-rays they did in the beginning?
The x-rays aren't as sensitive as the echocardiogram.
Okay.
So the x-rays we were looking for an enlarged heart, sure, but unless it's like incredibly enlarged. But the big thing we were looking for was that kind of mineralization of the great vessels associated with that atherosclerosis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to interrupt.
No. And then again, the echocardiogram is a bit more sensitive for certain vessels, but we're in this, it's very frustrating because we get into this gray area because we don't get all the images that we would like from the echocardiogram because of her anatomy as a bird. So the ECG would tell us, when she drops the beat, how frequently she drops it. It would tell us what ventricle or atria it's coming from, so what chamber of the heart it's coming from. And then it would tell us how kind of quick that happens and how frequently it happens. So the ultimate goal is that it would tell us where and why the problem is happening, which I know I already said. And then there's just it's hard for me to even go into how many different problems the heart could have, but the ideal situation is that we would use medication to kind of counteract that.
And they have different kinds of medications depending on what's going on with the heart?
Yes.
Different than the medication she was at?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the medications that cardiology would prescribe are more things that help the heart contract or relax or pump blood or change the physical heart itself. What we were doing is we were dilating and constricting the outside vessels away from the heart to change the blood flow, if that makes sense, so that we could decrease the blood pressure throughout the body.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then are we going to hold off then on the issue with the feather plucking?
Let's chat about that. So the plan still is that we want to taper her amlodipine and keep her on the meloxicam. Mm-hmm. At this point, with her kind of chronic feather plucking, I think it would be appropriate to start her on the haloperidol. This is kind of our last ditch medication. This is something we only use in kind of the cases. It is an antipsychotic medication that was used in human medicine and has been extrapolated to birds. Benefits of this medication is that it actually changes the neurotransmitters in the brain and reduces the kind of pleasure that she would get out of feather plucking. There's not a guarantee that it will work. The side effects are actually not too bad. The most common side effect is just sedation or tiredness. And
so if I do give it because meloxicam makes her droopy too, so I just give it to her in the evening. So that way she sleeps well.
Mm-hmm. And we don't, Usually we recommend giving these medications in the morning because that's when most of the behaviors occur. I don't know when Lewis specifically has her behaviors.
She's usually with me all day, so I don't see her plucking. So
it's probably at night.
I think she's plucking at night.
So then it would be ideal to give her it at night and prevent it. And then if she gets a great night's sleep because of it, that's wonderful. Usually we start at a very low dose once a day. We don't have, very well we don't have very good studies on how birds dosing and how it works and things like that. So it's a bit of a give and take. So we start at the very low dose. We can increase the dose. We can split the dose into twice a day. It is going to be a little bit of kind of a week by week, day by day situation of how she's responding to the medication.
And I'm supposed to just visually watch her to see if she's responding. Mm-hmm. So how will I know?
If she stops having the feather destructive behavior, or she has a decrease in the feather destructive behavior.
I mean, I'm not going to know day to day.
Week to week.
It depends on the feathers start to grow back, and they could take up to
6 months for a molt. Yeah. It's the best option. It's really the only option. Okay. Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
I gotcha. So we're going to start on a certain dose, and then would I talk to you if I increased it or decreased it?
Yes, ideally you would send us an email so that we can kind of chat about the dose changes and dose frequency. We don't recommend that you change it without consulting us first.
That's what I'm just making sure.
Beautiful.
I don't want to read into anything you're saying. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's something I could get today?
Yes, we could fill that prescription for you today.
Okay, and so she would start that tonight?
She can, yeah.
And then she would go to half of her heart or the blood pressure medicine?
Yeah.
For the next week, you said, or 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks? And then a quarter for 2 weeks?
Then we would just discontinue it after the 2 weeks. Okay. Yes. And I write everything down. Do you get our discharge instructions emailed to you?
Yeah, but sometimes later. Yeah. But I just like to make sure.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. You know, I like to talk things out. I'm sorry.
No.
Important for me.
I was like, what? But I usually send mine out the same night, so you should get them tonight, the discharge instructions. But yes, please continue. I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page.
Yes. And that's why I just ask a lot of questions, because I don't want to get out of here and be like, and then I read this and even this doesn't tell me what I need to understand. Yeah. You know, I do this to my own doctor, believe me.
No. Yeah.
And her nails are good?
Her nails are good. Yes, we trimmed her nails. Okay. The only other thing I wanted to mention to you is that as we were giving her injection for her sedation, I was like, okay, smooth stick. She doesn't have any feathers here. She did move a little bit, and so she does have like a little laceration, a bruise here. I assure you.
You're fired. Just kidding.
It looks so much worse than it is. As soon as it happened, I was like, oh my God. And she was like, ha, like, it looks.
Have to worry about infection or anything?
No, nothing like that. It is a very small wound. It looks worse. There's going to be a little bruising around it. It happens. I hate that it happened.
And you get to see it because she's bald.
Exactly. As I was giving that, I was like, one hand technique, beautiful. And then it looks much worse than it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll forgive you.
I appreciate it. But I can put that, do you need a refill of the meloxicam while you're here as well?
I still have some.
Okay. That sounds good.
I still give her the same amount, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want it to go bad, so I should probably finish what I got.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It should last for about a year.
A year?
Yeah.
Okay.
But definitely finish what you got. We usually do fill a lot for you. I just wanted to double check. Okay, so I'll fill the haloperidol.
If I should or not. It's the blood pressure one that gets refrigerated. So I suppose if that can last a year, then I might as well get another same amount that I got last time.
Let me actually just check one thing about our pharmacy and how their expiration date.
Okay.
Okay. So the current lot of the meloxicam does expire in January of 2024. So it would only be good for, like if I prescribed you a bottle today, it would only be good through January.
And I may have enough left in the one she's got. So I could just call and pick one up if I needed it, right?
Yeah. Okay. We ask for about 48 hours in advance for refills.
Yeah. Unless you're here the day of.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
And you're gonna, and then this other medicine is a syringe too?
Yes, it's a liquid.
And you guys will have it marked?
Yes. Yes, it's going to be a very small volume to start with.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, like smaller than she gets her meloxicam, or smaller than her?
It will be smaller than the volume she gets from meloxicam. It will be like 0.02 milliliters.
That must be less than what she
It
gets
is.
for her blood pressure too.
Yeah, both of her meloxicam and her blood pressure are about 0.2 milliliters. So on a syringe, this is how much volume of meloxicam she usually gets from here to here. This is how much volume of the antipsychotic medication she's going to get. It's very, very small.
Okay. And you guys have the small syringes, right?
Yes.
And you'll give me a couple of them?
Oh, yeah.
Because she chews.
Yeah. I'll make a note that pharmacy should give you extra syringes.
Yeah, and as long as they put that mark on them.
Yeah.
So I don't,
Okay. Any other questions?
I don't think so. I think that's, do you think we covered it all?
I think so. I
More
think we
than
hit
normal? You're just
the blood pressure, that new heart thing that we talked about, and then the little scab and the little
Otherwise,
bruising.
everything else looks good. What
It
was her
looks
weight?
really good. She was 462 grams for us today.
Okay, so she only dropped 3 grams.
Yeah, she's very consistent. Yeah. Yeah, eyes, nose, nothing else in my physical exam that I wanted to talk to you about.